All right, I'm Olivier Gaston, founder of Gaston and co-owner. And that's a story that started about 15 years ago with first farming cacao on Malekula Island, which is about 350 km from here, 1 hour by plane, and the chocolate factory in 2017. So you will see through the visit and the stories that both are very complementary business. Our money-making business is export of specialty cacao, and the factory is kind of our best visit card to sell the cacao. When you do good chocolate, people trust you when it comes to making their own cacao. So that's how both interact very well. I will start from the beginning, and the beginning is in the nursery behind you, if you want to follow me. I know it's tempting to touch the trees, but please keep your hands up, don't touch the trees, they're very fragile. Every leaf you take away is something that might not grow down the line. So we can all fit inside, you can come inside and I will explain to you what we do in there. So basically this is our research nursery. This is where the magic happens for what we do down the line. The whole idea of this work is preservation of existing genetics in Vanuatu, rejuvenation, repopulating the field with good genetics. Why? Vanuatu is just like any other country where cacao is growing. Trees usually were planted about 5-6 decades back, and now they're all aging, getting depleted, losing power. You see yield dropping, you see size of fruit dropping, number of fruit dropping, more attacks, more prone to disease. So if we don't do something to change that, the trend that we witnessed for the past 20 years in Vanuatu, which is just decrease of export year after year after year, will not stop. To a point where it's not commercially viable to do anything, because there is a critical mass when you harvest. You need at least 200 kilo of fresh beans to do a proper fermentation. And to get 200 kilo of fresh beans, you need to have many trees that have ripe fruit at the same time. Okay, a tree will give you 1 kilo per year, but it won't give you that 1 kilo one time. It will flourish and give you fruits over 8 months period. 4 months it's dormant, it's the interseason. Otherwise, it's just fruiting and giving. So you need about 15 hectares to harvest 200 kilo one time a week in the season. That's roughly the size of what you need. To keep that life, we do all that job that's impossible to monetize. So you have to realize that we're a small factory, and that's a big commitment from us to Vanuatu as a country and as a company, because we know that if we don't do it now, down the line, we might lose everything. So we might get a chance to buy more cacao in the future, but it's kind of a super long shot bet. We really do it because we have donor partners that trust us and help us to implement those projects. If we were to finance that on our own, that wouldn't be possible. What happens in here, there's a series of different things. This is the fresh planted trees. I was literally my hands in there. You can see my nails are still like black. We planted a whole set of about 300 seedlings. They are marked by genotype. We got them from the research center in Santo. So we know exactly the mother tree and the father tree of those seeds that we are planting, and we know they are straight genetics. Because we plant the seed and not graft the tree, there is still a 30% chance it's not the genetic we want. Cacao self-hybrids in the field. So if you have 3-4 genetics and they are self-compatible, then they can marry each other. Some are not compatible, nothing happens, but some are. So there's still a chance it's not the right genetic, but by taking the best fruit and the biggest seeds inside that fruit, we know we'll have a very yielding tree anyway. So that's something, that's a bet we're ready to make, because we need to populate. When you need to populate, you want to go for mass planting. You don't want to go for the tiny grafting one by one. They're just here. You can see them, like those I grafted here. I have a success rate of about 20%. We experiment on different types of genetics because we want diversity. We don't want monocropping. And alongside cacao, we also plant coffee, I've got seedlings in those bags. You see in between the rows of cacao, I've got about 250 coffee tree now that just started. You see that the yield on everything you plant is just going much faster because you have interaction between those trees and they support each other. We also planted shading trees on the farm already. It's Gliricidia and it's a very interesting tree because it feeds the soil. It fixes the nitrogen in the soil. So by using that tree, we have a tree that feeds the soil and then we have trees that pump from the soil. So it's a virtuous cycle. And then we do our own compost and own production of organic matter to just support the trees when we transplant. And if we see that they are a bit stressed during the development, once they get to maturity, usually you don't need to do much. They're established for 35 to 50 years. After that, they start depleting. So that's fixed volumes on the trees we harvest now. Who planted them? Probably the grandfathers of our grandfathers. That's how far back it goes. But now they're overground, we lose efficiency, they're very tall trees, so you cannot work with just a clipper, you need a long perch to chop the fruits. Like, this is the most inefficient way of harvesting. An average farmer in Vanuatu harvests 40 kilo a day. The same guy in Ecuador in a commercial farm, 200 kilo. So you see the reasons why we're trying to shift towards more efficient. I'm not saying it has to be perfect and fast is good, but 40 kilo a day is too small an income to keep the people motivated. So that's why we try to improve and ease also the work. Because when you walk through the farm, if you have to go above the coconut trees and then bend for the branches, it's a nightmare. When you have nice rows of lime trees and intercrop in between, you just go chop, 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 you feed the bucket and it goes to the factory. So that's what we are trying to reach, what we're aiming for. Where we start is, for now, very low yield, very low efficiency of harvest, which is great because we can do worse than that. So anything we implement will just help. So we start from here, we grow the trees, we supply seedling to farmers, we grow the trees for our own farm. Then we have fermentation and drying that happens on Malekula. We try and keep as many of the jobs as possible on the island to avoid the urban drift, people coming to the city to find jobs which don't exist. We rather create jobs that pay well in the island, so they're happy to stay there, and that boosts the economy of the island and the country as a nation. So the whole idea is that we expand the model. Right now we have 407 farmers, I checked an hour ago, under contract. So it's quite, it's a growing operation. We started with 10 farmers 8 years back on Malekula. So that speaks volumes on how quickly we've been able to train people and grow the network. And our top harvest day last year was 4 ton 800 kilo on one day of wet beans. This year we've done 6.5, 7.5 and 10.8 ton last week. So it's just showing that the stuff we implement helps to drive more volume with the same equipment, same farm, same station. So I was baffled. Like when I saw the numbers, I was like, you type it wrong? I asked my staff, I was like, is it 1 ton? No, it's 10 ton we did today. I was like, okay, that's great, thank you. Then I jump on the plane to go and check quality is still there, because when you do big jumps in processing, you might lose on quality. So I spent 3 days last week, which is great because you will see fresh fruits. I traveled them back with me. And that takes us to what we do now at the factory. I invite you to move inside. We'll see the process of chocolate making. Any questions, sorry, about the trees, Yeah?
I have some questions. So, how long it takes to start fruiting?
Good question. If you plant from the seed, it will take 3 to 4 years before you get first fruits. Ideally, you'd like to sacrifice your first harvest so the tree gets more strength and then gives you more on the following harvest. If you graft, 18 months.
18 months.
Which is the other reason why we do grafting. It's the banks don't like to loan money for too long without you make an income. So when it's 18 months versus 3 years, they're like, graft everything. Yeah, well, that takes a bit more work, but it will reach full harvest maturity at year 6, 7, and then it's flat for about 30, 35 years, providing you don't face major cyclone or severe drought. It's still connected to climate. But in theory, in a normal environment, the tree will give you full fruition, full productivity for 30, 35 years. It's a very good crop. Like unlike cava or other crop that are considered good cash crop, but you only harvest once every 3 years, then you've depleted the soil. You need to move and chop more of the forest. Cacao, once established, gives you money every week for the rest of your life, basically. An active life is considered 30, 35 years. So if you start a farm as a young adult, you'll farm that farm your whole life, and it'll feed your family for your whole life. It's not a bad story to tell to people. It's just that if it's not done the right way, or if you target the wrong market, you won't make the money that keeps people motivated. So you have to understand what you're aiming for. And if you aim for the right market, you can make good money. The origin of cacao in Vanuatu, pretty much the same as the whole of Melanesia. Back 1873, that's the further back we went in terms of export or written traces of cacao commercially dealt with in Vanuatu. Scientific expedition as well made drawings of the cacao trees that were growing back in the time, so we know that's pretty much as far back as it goes. Two waves of cacao coming to the Pacific, one with the Dutch, who started from the Caribbean and traveled all the way around South Africa, settled in Madagascar, moved down and disseminated cacao across Indonesia, Timor, Papua New Guinea, Solomon, Vanuatu. That's the Amelonado trinitario, that's one type. The other type is a Forastero type, which came with the Spanish from the Philippines, and from there they sent the cacao everywhere in the region. Chance for us, both ferment on the same amount of days, so we can harvest them not really thinking of the genotypes, and ferments pretty well, both of them together in the same boxes. So it makes the job way easier, and it's a chance for farmers because they can achieve high quality without having to worry about selecting the trees or the genotypes. Now what we want to grow, which is a different question, we want to introduce more of the Trinitario type for flavor profile, but we still keep, in my mix I always have 30% of local genetics that are yielding well, because that's the flavor that made us popular worldwide. And I want to keep that. I don't want to lose that flavor. The chocolatey flavor, the dried apricot nuts we have, this is something that's really what's like the Vanuatu flavor of cacao for chocolate makers worldwide. So if I start growing different stuff, I might go a bit away and drift from that flavor, and it might be lost. So I don't want that. I don't want to be another Madagascar or another Trinidad and Tobago. I want to be Vanuatu in flavor. But we need to keep the yield, we need to boost the volume, so we'll introduce some of the Trinitario type, which are compatible with the Forastero and the Amelonado. They will marry each other, and it will just give better seeds, bigger yields, bigger fruits, make the yielding for farmers a bit higher. That's the Amelonado Trinitario Classic that we grow. This is more like what the Spanish traveled with, and what was in the drawing of the first expedition that we found at the museum. That's where we found them. So this is all growing in the field in Vanuatu. What we have been planting here, I have stuff that's big like my forearm in size, so much bigger fruit, much bigger seeds. The target is to improve our bean count. How many beans per 100 grams? The lower, the better. It means if we have 80 beans for 100 grams, they're good, fat, nice beans. If you have 120 in count, you get disqualified from some countries, and it's challenging to export because the amount of loss when you process, the skin to cacao ratio is very high, and the chocolate makers don't like to waste too much. We are less regarding because we are in the country that grows the cacao, which means cacao for us is kind of the cheapest ingredient. We don't have to pay for the long transport. That's the main reason. So we process everything. Usually what's rejected for export is what I can process still here because I know how to work those beans. We've done that for so many years, and we still do chocolate that wins medals at World Championships. So when people are a bit picky on cacao, I'm laughing because the expertise of the chocolate maker is not to be undermined. Like there is a true expertise in turning something average into brilliant. And that's through the process I will explain to you now. After we get the bags, we crack them open, we roast. average roasting around an hour of time on small roaster. We try and roast low temperature, around 90 degrees inside the bin. Commercial chocolate, for comparison, 180. So it's a bit like the Italian roast of dark chocolate, and they do that because they want to deliver the same flavor bar after bar, year after year. So by burning the beans, basically, you always deliver the same burnt chocolate flavor. We are more like winemakers. We want to express the beans. We want to develop some flavors in those beans. The fruitiness, the floral, the herbal, like the spicy, like this is naturally in your cacao if you treat it well and if you roast it the right way. So once you can express that, all of a sudden people are like, whoa, that's chocolate like I've never tasted before. Yeah, it's actual low roast and expression of flavors versus high-speed production and mainstream flavor. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad for you to have a commercial chocolate. It's just that it's, I believe, less exciting. Also, less satisfying because they process quick and they end up with a lot of off flavors. We process in 3 days. A commercial bar is done in 8 hours. So you cannot evaporate some of the acidity, and to hide that you use vanilla extract or other flavor tricks which are not displayed on the bar. If you flip the bar and you see vanilla extract, but it's not a vanilla flavored chocolate on the packaging, it means we're trying to hide either poor quality beans or quick process, one or the other. And it works. Your tongue is like, it's fine, and your brain is like, it's fucked up. And you eat some more because you have that issue inside you, and you're like, that's weird. And it's not equally satisfying. Proper chocolate, you crack a bar, you have 2 pieces, that's enough. That's all you need for the day. It's in the right place, all the flavors are correct. There is nothing wrong. You're like, I don't like that, and it's not satisfying. So that's the idea of artisan craft versus commercial. 1 hour roasting. This machine does the winnowing. It's the separation of the skin and the bean. Skin is trapped in the big bag, and we use it for our fertilizer. So there is no loss at all in the process. I'll invite you to come closer. You can smell like this has been roasted today. Will be processed tomorrow. You get the chocolate flavor that's coming off the. Try and like leave the first row, and people can. A kilo of bean will give you about a kilo of dark chocolate, 70%. What we lose in skin and processing and water, we replace with sugar and cocoa butter to do the recipe. So we start with a proxy of 1-for-1, and if it's milk, it's less cacao going in, so it's even more chocolate produced. It's simple math. Now we'll step inside. I'll just ask you to grab a hairnet for those who don't have a hat. If you have a hat or no hair, that's fine. Perfect. Refining. And it's all about crushing in different ways for about 3 days. This is a pre-grinder. It's got 2 stones that crush and lay all the cacao down at 40 micron size. It's still powdery out of this machine. Then we put it into the melangers. That's a large size. Those are a bit more precise machines. So we use this one still in the pre-refining, because from this one we can split between the 2 small, or we can do our own cocoa butter, which Marie was running today. You can see it's still fresh down on the bucket. She can show you. That's the extraction of cocoa butter. The reason why we do our own cocoa butter, 2 reasons actually. One is commercial. Vanuatu has only import tax. That's the only way we collect money here, because the income tax would be too pricey to collect across all islands. So imports of cacao butter, very pricey. The other risk we take is if the ship doesn't come, we stop the factory. One reason why most chocolate makers don't do their own cocoa butter is they work different cacao origins. So they have to use commercial cocoa butter that's deodorized. Our cocoa butter is made with the same beans as our chocolate. So there is no conflicting flavor. It ticks all boxes. We do it in-house. It's one more machine to maintain. It's a pricey one to purchase, but in the long run, much safer for the business. And another thing we can do on the island, which is nice, we're 100% made in Vanuatu, which is cool. You won't see cocoa butter making at every chocolate maker, and there is a good reason why. It's not because they're lazy or they don't want to, it's just that commercially it makes no sense for them. It does for us because we operate from here. We do the refining up to here. It's not chocolate yet, it's liquor, because half of the bean is fat, cocoa butter. When you crush, it turns into liquid. To make powder, you need to remove the fat. If you leave the fat inside, as you crush, it turns liquid. Even if you let it solidify, you recrush, it's liquid again. So the only way you get powder is by removing the fat. That's why it's fat-free powder. Powder is a byproduct. We sell it as well. Butter is used to improve creaminess and mouthfeel in our own recipe. So it becomes an ingredient in itself. It's a spin in the process, but it comes back into the same chocolate in the end. On those, you see there's all the different ingredients written, batch number, day of starts of refining, and speed at which it's turning. I stopped it for the noise. I will start it again. You can take pictures as it's spinning. This one is clean. You see what it looks like when it's empty. The idea is we always track what's in there. So if someone steps in production, they can continue the process and fill in what needs to be filled. If the recipe is finished, we'll let it run. This will spin for 2 days. The first part up to here, 1 day, another 2 days here, and then we do the tempering, which is the machine that's running there. So
So after that, we just keep it in the fridge for half an hour. Because it's 10 degrees, so it's really cool. And we do rafting after that and packaging. But it's all done by hand. Like you see, that one is dark covered chocolate. All of them covered chocolate. But in the mold, it's already right like Gaston Chocolate inside the mold. So